Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a two-time cancer fighter who is currently in remission, and getting cancer is the best thing that could have happened for me. I know, kind of weird to say, and I also do want to let you guys know that I am going to be reading off of some of my notes, just because I really wanted to go about this video in a good way, and I just really want to make sure that I had my thoughts and my words collected. So sorry if you see me glancing down. I'm reading my notes. Yes, getting cancer is probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So let's do a little backstory. In September of 2023, at almost 24 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 3 Wilms tumor and lost my left kidney, went through chemotherapy, radiation, and after 6 months of treatment, I beat cancer. So I thought. 7 months into remission, after a routine scan, I found out that my cancer came back and metastasized in my left lung and in my colon. After my first round of chemo, I came back from a 3-day stay at the hospital and completely fell to my knees and asked for a God I previously hated to reveal himself and to save me. It took reaching the lowest and most frightening moment of my life to realize I had no one and nothing else to turn to, and the only name I could think to turn to was the name of Jesus Christ. So let's back it up a little bit. Growing up, I was raised Catholic. My papa was a deacon. I had my first communion. I was baptized. I went to Sunday school. However, I did not understand or even believe in Jesus. In fact, a few years before my diagnosis, someone was trying to talk to me about God, and I completely rejected him and what she was telling me. And I stated, quote, "If God was so good, and if he was real, why is there suffering?" Little did I know in that moment that being in suffering is where God revealed himself to me, and in suffering is where I experienced the true love of Jesus. I always knew that there was like a higher being. I used to believe in spirit guides, dabbled in tarot, and I just had this innate knowing that there was an unseen energy that humans were able to tap into and had access to. Growing up Catholic, and I'm sure other people who grew up in a religion might feel the same, the only place that I thought I could be with God was in a church, or if I did X, Y, and Z. Not to put blame on anyone, but the believers in my life did not portray Jesus in the way that I have come to know him now. In fact, since reading the Bible for myself, he is the exact opposite of what I believed he was. To my memory, no one told me about Jesus who called out religious hypocrisy. No one told me about the Jesus who was patient. No one told me about the Jesus who meets us exactly where we're at. And no one told me about the Jesus who so deeply wants to wrap his loving arms around us. Reading the Gospels for the first time dismantled everything I thought I knew about Jesus in the best way possible. I learned that committing sin doesn't make us the villain in God's eyes. Sin are simply things that aren't good for us. I mean, really and truly look at what sin is: greed, pride, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Jesus' end goal isn't to simply punish us for sin. It is to protect us from the harm it creates in your life. For he knows what is good and bad for us. He created us. Truly look at that list and ask yourself how those things have affected your life. Did it bring peace and harmony, or sadness and confusion? Religion tries to tell you what you should be convicted of, and if you don't, God hates you. But Jesus says, listen to his voice and what he calls you to do. I mean, the Pharisees knew every rule and still couldn't realize that the Messiah was standing right in front of them. Following the rules to the point of condemnation is not God's plan. I mean, look at Matthew 12, for example. I will read it for you guys. It's talking about Sabbath, which is the day of rest. At the time Jesus passed through the grain fields in the Sabbath, his disciples were hungry and began to pick and eat heads of the grain. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "See, your disciples are doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath." He said to them, "Haven't you read what David did when those who were with him were hungry? How he entered the house of God and they ate the bread of the presence? Was it not lawful for him or for those with him to eat, but only for the priests? Or haven't you read in the law that on Sabbath days the priests in the temple violate the Sabbath and are innocent? When I tell you that something greater than the temple is here, if you had known what this means, 'I desire mercy, not sacrifice,' you would not have condemned the innocent, for the Son of Man is Lord on Sabbath." Basically, that means God values compassion and kindness over empty religious rituals. And that was something that I didn't know until I read the Gospels. I strongly urge anyone who is watching to ask Jesus yourself what he needs you to do, and you might be surprised with the answer. For me, he needed me to simply believe and to trust that he loves me enough to sustain me during the most difficult time in my life. He didn't shame me for not being perfect. He didn't rush me to change every detail about myself. He simply asked that I sit with and look towards him in my time of need. When I was fighting cancer for the first time, I reached out to a girl named Yami. I found her on TikTok. She had the same cancer as me, and I have a rare cancer. And before she passed away, the last conversation I had with her was her urging me to seek refuge in Jesus. I was feeling pretty low at the time. A few of my friends who weren't showing up for me in the way I had hoped, and I asked her if she experienced the same neglect. And her response was shocking to someone who did not believe in God. Her trust didn't lie with people she knew would disappoint her. She was on her deathbed, and her faith deeply moved me and planted a seed. She said that her trust lied with a God who never changes, who is the same today, tomorrow, and forever. Jesus says in Matthew 11:28-30, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am lowly and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I experienced this firsthand. I have the privilege of experiencing cancer twice, the first time without Jesus and the second time with him. And the difference is day and night. The first time I was relying on my own strength, which led to depression, rage, fear, and putting my trust in people who simply didn't have the capacity to carry me. The second time, I asked Jesus, and I quote, "If possible, physically carry my body. Pick me up and carry my body throughout this journey if this is truly what I need to go through again." I knew the second time was going to be exponentially harder than the first time. More surgeries, more radiation, and an extremely difficult chemo regimen. And he did just that. When I was going through total abdomen radiation, y'all, I was so down bad. I couldn't stand without being out of breath. I couldn't walk without holding onto my boyfriend's arms, and I couldn't stop throwing up. Little did I know that that was actually nothing compared to the state that I should have been in. I went to the hospital to check on my labs and found out that my platelets were at 1. For those who don't know, that should have immediately sent me to the ICU. Platelets at 1 should have left me bleeding, bruised, in a wheelchair, and at minimum admitted into the hospital. But I got to go home that night. This is not the norm for someone who has platelets at 1. My own oncologist asked how I was even standing. I said, "Jesus," and he agreed. And a medical professional agreed that the only way I was standing was Jesus. I almost got admitted, but my oncologist, I got sent home, okay? I don't want anyone coming from my oncologist, okay? I refused to look at the situation and think it was my own strength that sent me home. It was Jesus answering my prayer. Not only is cancer a physical battle, it is a mental battle as well. I personally dealt with a lot of negative beliefs that my thoughts could create a devastating reality. I was in fear that being scared would create my death and that thinking positively would jinx my survival. That is not a good place to be at when you're fighting for your life. After I allowed Jesus to enter my life, those thoughts were the first thing he lovingly took away from me. He gave me the freedom to think positively without fear and gave me the space to feel my feelings without thinking they would harm my chances of survival. Those were bondages he freed me from. So again, I want to urge anyone who's curious about Jesus but is hesitant because of what religion tells them to do. Jesus wants to break you free of the strongholds in your mind, and that includes religious trauma. Jesus relates to everything a person can go through. Grief, he lost his cousin and earthly father. Death, he cried out to God in the garden to take this cup away from him, aka the crucifixion. He asked if there could be any other way. Religious trauma, the Pharisees killed him for not being what they wanted him to be. And to my past self, I want to answer your question. If God is real and good, why is there suffering? The answer I have is simple-ish. God unfortunately won't take suffering away on this earth, but instead he joins us in it. He sent his son to suffer. He meets us in our suffering. And he promises to us that when we reunite with him in heaven, there will be no suffering. There will be no crying. There will be no pain. This earth is not our home. We're simply passing by. And what I've come to realize is that I would not be the person I am today if I didn't suffer. It's really hard. It really is hard. And it took a lot to accept this, but our characters are being developed in suffering. Our values, compassion, love, mercy for one another, all of these things are built in suffering. How can we appreciate the good if we don't also live through the bad? For anyone who finds it difficult to trust anything spiritual because they can't physically see or feel God's spirit, I want to tell you this. When I was going through radiation and laying on the radiation table, I thought to myself, I can't feel the beam. I can't see the beam. I have to trust that this is actually doing something. And like Jesus, if we sit in the presence of that unseen thing, being for long enough, we will feel the effects of it. Now, the effects of Jesus are far better than the effects of radiation on the body, but I don't know. I thought that was a pretty unique perspective, metaphor, whatever you want to call it, that only a cancer patient could make, and especially about the idea of trust. You know, I have to trust that what I'm doing will heal me. Even though I can't see the end goal, I can't see the beam, I can't feel it, but I have to trust. I'm only 7 months into this journey with Jesus. I'm pretty new, and he has done wonders in this time. So yeah, I can confidently say that getting cancer was the best thing that could have happened to me, because without it, I would have never experienced the pure love that is Jesus Christ. And also to add on to like anyone who is like curious, not fully committed to the idea of Jesus, I want to share you my first proper encounter with Jesus. I originally didn't like buy a Bible. I was praying. That was about it. And my friend actually had recommended me this Jesus Calling book. You know when people say like, I heard God, or God revealed this to me and that, like as a new believer, you have no idea what that actually looks like. Like, what do you mean Jesus spoke to you? Like, how is that possible? I didn't know what that would actually look like. So this is like a daily devotional. So it has like the actual days. Like, what's this? October 20. I got this in May. I did not go to the day that it was. I just opened it randomly and it led me to February 15th. And let me read to you what it says. Come to me with all your weaknesses, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Rest in the comfort of my presence, remembering that nothing is impossible with me. Pry your mind away from your problems so you can focus your attention on me. Recall that I am able to do immeasurably more than all you ask or imagine. Instead of trying to direct me to do this or that, seek to attune yourself to what I am already doing. When anxiety attempts to wedge its way into your thoughts, remind yourself that I am your shepherd. The bottom line is, I am taking care of you. Therefore, you needn't be afraid of anything. Rather than trying to maintain control over your life, abandon yourself to my will. Though this may feel frightening, even dangerous, the safest place to be in is my will. My heart skipped a beat when I first read that, and without a doubt, I knew that that was Jesus talking to me directly in that moment, and I finally realized like what all these believers mean by like Jesus spoke to me, Jesus revealed this. It's moments like that. So I highly urge anyone to get a Bible, get this Jesus calling, because he speaks to us in his word. So if you're going through suffering, if you so deeply need to hear Jesus and the voice of God, the best way to do that is through the word. So yeah, if you guys watched this video, I appreciate you. Just know that I love you, Jesus loves you. You know, there is someone there that deeply and truly cares about you and wants to pull you out of whatever grave you think that you're in. So yeah, thanks again.